So project funding, as François said before, is the core business, so to say, in the sense that we have about half of the budget that we invest in this. And project funding also is, of course, open to all disciplines of research, and it is truly bottom-up. So you choose the topics, and you can submit projects to the SNF. The idea is actually that we can really empower you to do projects once you are in an established and independent position, and that this money that you would get in such a grant actually covers all costs that are directly related to the project. That's the idea. It does, however, not cover the salary of the applicant. So the picture is you are somewhere in a position, in an independent research position, you get your salary from an institute, and then you can apply for projects on top in this competitive layer that the SNF organizes, and there you get all costs that are involved directly with this project you can ask for in these grants. Okay. Of course, I mean, there's one condition. It should not be that these projects have any kind of commercial goals. It's about research, it's about creating knowledge, and we want to respect the independence of research and also freedom so that you can publish what you find. It's not the idea to create products or something. And in these projects, you can apply for them alone, so to say, as you as a main applicant, or it's also targeted to groups. So collaborations, of course, are also very much welcome. The duration of a project is from 1 to 4 years, and there's two deadlines for the project funding scheme, one in April and one in October, 1st of October, and this is a bit Swiss, but it's actually really 5 p.m. It's not at midnight or in the evening or something. It's 5 p.m. Just that I mentioned that. Okay, and then, as I said, the essence is that you can actually that you can ask for anything that you need, that you can do your research project, and that is directly covered or directly related to it. So, for example, the salaries of your staff. If you hire a PhD or a postdoc to do your research, you can pay, of course, their salaries, not your own, but the salaries of your staff. You can do conferences. You can use infrastructure. The direct part of the cost of that is eligible. And what means direct here? So direct means, if an institution has a machine, let's say, and this machine offers services to researchers, then the SNSF will not pay the maintenance of this machine and the repair, etc. It will also not pay the depreciation and stuff, but the direct cost, the cost that is involved in using the machine, that is eligible. Then, as we heard before, open access, of course, we support that. And then you can buy material, equipment, travel, etc., computing time. A lot, actually. The idea is that you can do your research. Okay. And then you can also have, I mentioned, you can be an applicant on your own. You can have co-applicants, so you have another person that has to meet all the eligibility criteria. But you can also have partners. That's another role. A partner is somebody that makes a contribution to the project, but that could be at the private institute, for example, or at, also even even in a commercial research institution. And here, and it can be in Switzerland or abroad. And the limitation, so to say, there is that it should not go beyond 20%. So the money that you spend for partners, so to say. And you can also do subcontracting, so you can buy services also, for example, from companies whenever it makes sense. There's also a limitation to 10% of the budget you have. And of course, I mean, the idea is we spend here tax money for research. So, I mean, we are concerned with or we want to ensure that the money is used in an economical way. But this is clear, but we will also do a couple of checks on that. Okay, and then, so I said you can apply as as an established researcher, so not at the beginning of your career. I'll come to that. And there is one condition, so you should be employed at least for 50% at an institution, a research institution in Switzerland. In some fields, there are cases where there are some people actually they are hired for less than 50%, but they have in other activities, they do scientific research or teaching, for example, physicians, and that is fine as well. For this, let's call them details. You can also again talk, of course, to the SNSF in the break or whenever you have the need. Okay, now, as I mentioned, it is in this academic life, so to say, we have seen a lot of these career funding schemes that you can have, including Ambizione, for example. And the project funding starts actually 4 years after the PhD, you start to be eligible. And if you are younger in this academic sense, again, you can apply to Ambizione, for example. And as always, there can be some exceptions. Okay, and now that's an important one. You see, everything is in bold almost. So it's about the number of projects that you can have in parallel. So, and that has been a change recently also. So, and now I'm talking of within project funding. You have seen there's a lot of instruments. Within project funding, you can in principle have one grant. That's the idea. And the idea is that you can pack quite a bit of ideas into this one grant. So it's you can put things together and call them work package 1 and 2, as long as they have, of course, a coherence in them. Now, if you're in the position to have something really different, where it does not make sense to have it in the same grant, which is substantially different, then you may be awarded a second grant. And there it's formulated here, so it has to be then a clearly different research question. The object of study should be different, the aims are different, so it's really different. In that case, it does not make sense to try to include it here, and in that sense you have a 1+1 within project funding, always within project funding. That's the coffee break, the virtual one. And now if you have, maybe I mentioned at this point again, so this is within project funding. Other schemes do not count in this 1+1. For example, if you are as well in a Synergia project or in an ERANET or something like that, this does not count. Lead agency, which is somehow similar to project funding, that does count. So again, for the details, if you're interested in that, I can explain it to you. But the main message is one grant that includes your research is the idea, and then possibly a second one if it's really different. Okay, and I mentioned this before as well. Of course, it is encouraged actually that you do collaborations. So if you have a research idea, a proposal where you need another expertise, so it makes a lot of sense to team up and to actually ask for a grant together in the form of 2 or more applicants for one project grant. Okay, now there again a bit of a timeline, and this is now about the staff that you might hire. So this is not about you as applicants of the project, but about the staff that you can hire. So you can have PhD students, and we call a person, so they can be at the maximum of 4 years in an SNF grant in the role of a PhD student, and afterwards, so counted from the matriculation date, and afterwards you have the postdoc phase, and you can hire people as postdocs in this time window. So after the PhD defense for a maximum of 5 years. For special cases, there is this dashed part of the box. If you have care duties, if you have parental leave or military service or whatever, no, not whatever, reasons of this type, then you can extend the window. Yeah. Okay. Now, how does it work in practice? So you have your idea, and then it's of course all electronically submitted through this our online platform, My SNF. And then, in a nutshell, let's say the evaluation goes in 3 steps: formal checks, then the peer review with the international experts, and then in the end it is debated in the National Research Council, and the decision is taken. Now, my advice is make sure that you pass this one because it's easy, and the other 2, then these are the more tough ones. But it's not everybody actually meets the formal criteria, so that is really sad usually. So please make sure that you do the formal stuff right. And then the evaluation criteria that we apply now for the scientific part of it, these are these 4 criteria. So we look at the relevance, and this can be the pure scientific relevance. If it is in what we call use-inspired project, it can also include a broader impact, actually not the purely scientific relevance, but the relevance for society, let's say, or a broader impact in society. That's one of the criteria. Then the originality and topicality is of course important. You have to show that you plan to use suitable methods, and it has to be feasible. These are the 4 criteria, and in the peer review as well as in the council, we discuss along these criteria when it comes to the project. So that's the idea and how we evaluate it. The other thing is you as a person. So it's the project and the person, and for the person, we look at the scientific track record. You are already in an established position, so to say. So we look at this, and then also with respect to your idea that you propose, to your expertise in this direction. These are the criteria, and here some advice. I already mentioned that deadlines are strict. Okay, you have another chance half a year later, I can say, but otherwise it's strict, and it's certainly good to read the guidelines, and it's even better if you're not sure to call us. Tell us when you're not sure and ask us about details, or ask to your colleagues that have done it before. And of course, it's a good idea to invest some time for this. And okay, I said you should talk to your colleagues, yes, but then also sometimes there are, let's say, rumors around about things, how this works. For example, with this 1 grant or 2 grant story, ask us if you want to be sure. And then sometimes it's still the case that you will not get through with your project. It's not. I mean, the good news still here is then you get the feedback, and you get the second chance. We have seen many examples where then we got the much better proposal in the second round. So that's again. I mean, we have seen a few of these points before already. Sometimes it is. It's a lack of coherence in the research plan. Sometimes it's not clear to the reviewers how you really want to do this. What are your methods that you plan to use? And maybe one should have in mind your proposal will be read by experts, but also by experts in a wider field. So you have to have people in mind that are also not the pure experts on this one, but a bit of both. And people should be able to understand your idea. Okay, and in that case, as I said, I mean, use the feedback that you get, talk to us, especially if you consider to resubmit, so to try again. I mean, of course, you have to then improve your application, you have to take the feedback into account, and also explicitly actually explain what you have done now. So what did you change? So that you have, in case of a resubmission, you have to provide. Now again, if you really do not agree with the decision, then there are two things you can do. You can ask for a reconsideration. In that case, you have to stick to the information that you provided. So the only thing that counts is what you have submitted for this proposal. You cannot say, oops, by the way, there is another thing you should know. That doesn't work. So it's only the documents you provided, and if you think the SNF or the experts or somebody has overlooked an argumentation, but you have it in the document, then it's a good idea to ask and to tell us what you think, and then of course in writing, and then there might be reconsideration. If you still don't agree, you can also go to court. Okay, but yeah, it's a right, which is important. So if you are successful now on the positive side, then there are still a few conditions for the funds to be released. So you have to start then the project within 12 months. You cannot wait forever. Then at some point it's lost. You have to have your data management plan that we heard, and then you have a few other things that you have to provide. Also during the project, there are a few duties like a financial report, etc. And also at the end of the project, you have to provide, of course, some output data that will be made publicly available, a report, the final one, and the financial report. And it's also the last time you can edit your data management plan. The idea of this was at the beginning, you provide a bit of evidence of thought, so to say. You say what you plan to do with your data, but then you might understand in the course of the project that you need changes, and you can change it. That's fair enough. But at the end, it will be frozen and then published. So other people will see what you have now done with your data. That's the idea of this data management plan. Good. That was it about project funding.
I will shortly present you the Synergia funding scheme. With Synergia, the SNSF wants to foster collaborative research across disciplinary boundaries. This means that the results should go beyond existing models and theories, and in order to achieve these goals, it's necessary to combine and integrate methods, theories, or approaches from 2 or more disciplines into one new approach. So it is really important for Synergia that the research approach is innovative and something new that is really based on the interdisciplinary collaboration. Then it is important also that the applicants have complementary expertise, and the consortium as a whole should have the necessary experience in managing research projects, but there can be more senior and more junior researchers in one consortium. It is also important that all the disciplines that are implied or involved in the Synergia project have more or less a similar importance. So with Synergia, we would not like to have one main discipline with auxiliary disciplines, but really disciplines that are working together on the same level. Then on a more practical level, Synergia grants are awarded to 2 to 4 applicants. And these applicants, they can also collaborate closely with the groups that are behind them. And if the total number of applicants is 3 or 4, one applicant may be employed abroad. So there is the possibility to include a foreign applicant if his or her expertise is not available in Switzerland. So that means there is no research group or researcher working on this topic, or at the moment there is no one available to collaborate with you. The eligibility criteria and also the eligible costs are similar to project funding, so that they are the same. And one person can only have one Synergia grant per funding period, but it is possible to have project funding and additionally a Synergia grant. And per submission deadline, you may only submit one Synergia proposal. The duration is also from 1 to 4 years, and the submission deadlines are 1st of June and 1st of December, so for Maybe you are already preparing Synergia Grant, or you may have some last-minute work for the 1st of December.